Hello and welcome back, PANcasters. Olivia is back with us today to discuss the initial steps when you get a new firewall. Hey Olivia, and welcome back.
Hello John, thanks for having me back. So I received a new firewall and I wanted to share with the audience the 3 must-do things with setting up a new firewall.
Great Olivia, let's get started.
So the first step is to perform the initial configuration. The purpose of that initial configuration is to set up the most basic configuration of the firewall. Something you can back up and use at the recovery point. At the first startup of the firewall, you will be requested to change the password of the default user account. What I like to do as well is to create a new default super user account and delete the default admin account. Anyway, make sure you have at least one local super user account. Another thing to set up on the firewall is the basic network configuration. The IP configuration, the DNS servers, and the time-related settings. The device, date and time, and the NTP servers. Once the initial configuration is done, perform the first commit on the firewall. If you need to enable the multibasis feature or jumbo frame support, enable those, then commit and reboot the firewall. Also, since PANOS 10.2, I think it can be interesting to move to the advanced routing engine. While the firewall is not fully configured yet, it will be simpler than to do it later. This activation also requires a commit and a reboot. Finally, if you plan on managing the configuration using Strata Cloud Manager or the Panorama, enable the settings, then commit. And for Panorama management, you will have to set the hotkey for the initial authentication with Panorama, but no commit is required to set this key.
Okay, so what's next?
Now that the initial configuration is done, your firewall should be able to contact the Palo Alto Networks servers. So the next step is to activate the firewall on the customer support portal. You will have to register the firewall, make sure the information is accurate, as it will be used the day you need to replace a hardware component. You will also have to register the license hotkeys so the firewall is correctly associated with the right subscriptions. One thing to note is that as long as you did not activate the licenses, you won't be able to get the associated services. No support license, no tax support. No threat license, no threat update on your firewall, which I remind you is to keep you secure. Another thing you should do at that stage is to get the device certificate. This certificate, automatically renewed every 3 months, is required to have access to the cloud-delivered security services. Advanced threat prevention, IoT security, and so on. Finally, if you are using some cloud-delivered security services like IoT security, Cortex Data Lake, or AIOps 3, you need to associate your device on the TSG on the hub portal. Keep in mind that the CSP and the hub portal are separate applications. There is no synchronization between the CSP and the hub portal.
More good info. Thanks, Olivia. What's the third step?
Last point I wanted to discuss is the software stack of the firewall. By software stacks, I mean the PANOS version, the different content updates, the plugins running on the firewall. Nobody can foresee the software version shipped with the firewall, so you will eventually have to upgrade it. So now that the firewall has its initial configuration and the license are activated, you can pull the license to the firewall. Take the opportunity the firewall is not in production to perform all the required upgrade, as you may have to reboot multiple times the firewall. One thing I notice on recent versions of the PANOS is the DLP plugin automatically installed. If you are not using the Enterprise DLP, which requires a specific license, remove the plugin. I saw some cases open simply because the DLP plugin version was not matching between HA pairs, and this plugin was not even used. That's all. Once those 3 steps are done, you simply have to load the final configuration and connect the network cables when you are ready to put the firewall into production.
Thanks, Olivier. What are the key takeaways from this episode?
I think we can summarize the episode in 3 points. 1. Set the initial configuration to perform the basic task. 2. Register the firewall on the Palo Alto Networks CSP and hub portal. 3. Install the required software for the firewall to be ready.
Thanks again, Olivier.
Thank you, John.
That's it for today, PANcasters. Head to live.paloaltonetworks.com for the transcript and additional info. Until next time.